What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Red and Gold Standard podcast. My name is Zach Hernandez, and as always, I am joined by my co-hosts, Matt Llewellyn and Mike Andrews. We got a great show planned for you guys tonight. I know it's a little later, so thank you everybody for tuning in. Make sure you hit like, hit subscribe, share the stream on X if you're watching there. Be sure to comment your thoughts because we can now see them. We're going to be recapping this weird final game of the 49ers / the season, and looking ahead to the wild card round and possibly the divisional round, depending on how much time we have left. But we've got a great show planned for you guys this evening, so make sure you stick around and share the stream to somebody you love, share it to somebody you hate. Just share it. That's all we ask. Matt, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Zach. It's going to be weird. 2 straight weeks without meaningful 49ers football is going to be something to behold. But it's going to be interesting to see how this shakes out. There's a lot of rumor, a lot of innuendo. Coaching carousel has begun in earnest. Some old heads out. Pete Carroll, Bill Belichick gone, Mike Vrabel gone, Arthur Smith gone. There's going to be a lot of movement. Adam Peters is in the final running for the Commanders job. So there's not necessarily a lack of 49ers news. It's just that the NFL is just in such a chaotic period and we don't have any actual games to go with it. We got a lot to talk about. Let's jump into it, man.
Exactly. It's a crazy week, but I like it. Mike, how you doing?
I am doing really, really well, man. I'm excited to be here with you guys tonight, and I'm excited to talk about some meaningless 49ers football and another week of just not giving a crap about what happens in the NFL. You know what I mean? So this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm interested to see the takes that come out of all of us tonight. So this is going to be good.
All right, without further ado, let's get right into it. So the 49ers lost their final game of the season to the Los Angeles Rams. A game that literally nobody cared about, including the Rams players. Maybe Sam Darnold and Carson Wentz played about it, depending on where they're trying to be next year. What's funny is I'm seeing all over X, like Rams fans acting like this actually meant something. Like they snapped the Niners, 8-game, 9-game, whatever the hell it was at, regular season winning streak against them. Dude, nobody cared about this game. Nobody cared about this game. The main goal was to get out healthy. And for the most part, the 49ers did it. Cleveland Farrell had that injury and left Carden out. And then it turned out it was a little bit more of a precaution. He might even play Sunday, I believe, from what Kyle's saying. Maybe it's not looking like he will, but he could. The biggest question I think we all had going into it was, especially based off of how last year ended, was, okay, Darnold, if you had to play, could we trust you? Could we feel comfortable giving you maybe 20 throws and running McCaffrey 60 times and winning that game? Matt, I'm going to start with you. What did you think of Sam Darnold's performance? How do you feel he did?
Meh. Backup quarterback level. I wouldn't want to see him in a playoff game if anything happened. It would be a significant step up from Josh Johnson from last year, but that's a very low bar to clear. This was a game that neither team really needed at all. So this game was sloppy all over the place. It was a lot of, Sean McVay trying to get Puka Nacua the rookie records, receiving yards. It was a lot of very vanilla game planning. This was a game that Kyle didn't bust really anything out of his bag because he didn't. I mean, in case the 49ers see the Rams in the playoffs, you don't necessarily want to tip your hand to Sean McVay and give him, any type of ammunition, any type of real tape to study when you go and face him in the playoffs, if that is what ends up shaking out. And it's very possible that could be. So to me, this was a preseason affair, right? To me, this would look like a preseason game in which Darnold played efficiently, not spectacularly efficiently, but when it comes down to it, this was not the best that either team had to offer. So I caution people from taking too much out of this. At the same time, there were a couple of Darnold throws where I was just like, dude, this is the guy that everybody says that Kyle Shanahan was in love with. Like, ugh, It wasn't a good showing overall. I wasn't very impressed with anything I saw on the field. The only thing that I can take away from this game really is that outside of Cleveland Farrell, most of the team was healthy. So we take it with that. So the Cleveland Farrell injury will probably lead to a lot more Chase Young, but that's off topic. Sam Darnold to me, meh.
What'd you think, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, if you guys didn't know,
Sorry, real quick, Mike. Sorry to interrupt you. I just want to say too, that fumble on the last drive was the most Sam Darnold shit I've ever seen. Just want to say that.
Right on time, right on cue to remind you why Sam Darnold is Sam Darnold, right? Like that was quite the icing on the cake. If you guys thought there could have been possibly a quarterback controversy, that play right there just showed you exactly why there's not a quarterback controversy. Sorry, Grant. You know, if you guys didn't have an idea of how much Kyle didn't care about this game, I want you to go to when the clock hit 0-0 and then watch the two head coaches converge into the middle of the field. Kyle is smiling after a loss. Never in my history of Niners games have I seen that happen before. So that just lets you know how meaningless of a game this was. And prior to the game, we heard pressers with Kyle Shanahan saying that this is the team that we fully expect to see later in the playoffs, which tells me that they think that the Rams match up better than the Cowboys. So, you know, just putting that out there, like there's things going. I'm sorry, not the Cowboys, the Lions. They think that the Rams match up against the Lions better because this was a game that neither team would have gained or lost any grounds on for winning or losing, and the standings for those two teams didn't change at all. And this is where we want to be. You know, we want to be in control of our own destiny, and we want to be the smarter of the coaching staffs involved on that end. So this was a good game for the Niners, even though we lost it. So yeah. Oh, and to Matt's point about Farrell being out and more for Chase Young, I will say that this postseason in particular will decide Chase Young's future with the 49ers.
Just adding on to that real quick. I don't want to bash the man, but can I just say, when it comes to Chase Young, I was expecting more. Like the talent is there, the potential is there, the addition to this defensive line was there. And look, it very well could be that just his presence, his addition frees up Bosa, frees up other defensive linemen. And we did have that, 4-week period after his arrival where Bosa started racking up the sacks. But it kind of got put on hold to end the season. I mean, I don't know. Do you guys feel differently? Has Chase Young impressed either of you guys?
This is kind of goes along the line with what I was talking about when people were speculating that he was going to be traded here. And I was like, this isn't a needle moving move for me. This doesn't move my needle anyway. For someone that they touted being better than Bosa coming out, he has not attained nearly that. And the fact that he gets to play across from a healthy Bosa, and the fact that he played across from Montez Sweat for a long time, and still just the production isn't quite there, it makes me wonder, we've seen highly touted prospects kind of flame out before, Jadeveon Clowney and others. And it just seems like he's a good complementary edge rusher. He's better than what the 49ers probably had over there. He certainly looks like he's going to be more productive than Drake Jackson, who recently had knee surgery and won't be back for the playoffs. But he's not elite. And so I'm kind of with you on that. I'm just kind of, at this point, it's like, unless he goes on some monolithic, heroic, mythical playoff run, I'm perfectly fine with him walking out the door and and getting money somewhere else, because somebody's going to pay him anyway. And with the production that he's had here, if it's going to be prohibitively expensive, and you asked me between Brandon Ayuk and Chase Young who I'd rather keep, it's going to be Brandon Ayuk all day. Case closed, no questions asked. That's it. So I'm with you on that.
What do you think, Mike? I feel like you may disagree.
I agree with everything Matt said as far as like what we've seen so far, right? But I just want to bring it back to the day we acquired Chase Young. He immediately became the 49er sack leader on the season. Like, he had more sacks than Bosa. And what I think he brought out of Bosa was, hey, meet me at the quarterback. So I think that it kind of sparked something in Bosa. Not that Bosa was dormant, not that Bosa wasn't doing what he was supposed to do all along, but the day we acquired him, he had more sacks on the season than Nick Bosa. And if you guys pull up the stats, I mean, you'll see it's not close, right? As far as just sacks, I think that he kind of, sparked something in Nick Bosa. And if that's what it takes to get another, what the league would view as a premier pass rusher on the opposite side of Bosa to make him play better, then I think Chase Young is doing his job. I think that means that the Niners need to look for someone like that in whether it be the draft or re-signing Chase Young. You know, we have a lot of things on our side when it comes to signing or extending him. The injuries, the lack of production once he got here and all that stuff. The Niners might be able to offer him what we would call a home team discount to stick around, and he would still spark something in Nick Bosa and get more production from the opposite side. I think there's a value in that, you know? And so I do see the value in retaining a guy like that, maybe not the value that the position would call for, if that makes any sense. He came in, he got a lot less snaps than what he was getting with Washington. With Washington, he was over 70% of their defensive snaps. Here, I think he was somewhere between 40 and 45% of the defensive snaps. He became a rotational player here. And so I still think that there's value there. But, you know, if he thinks that, or if the market dictates to him and his agent that he's going to get more outside, then he's gonna walk in free agency. If he's not getting the calls because of the injury history, because of the lack of production once he got here to San Francisco, then maybe we could end up getting a steal and getting both of those guys, him and Ayuk, and still someone to motivate Nick Bosa on the opposite side, those Ohio State brothers. I see a value in it. So
I got a question,
Go ahead,
Mike. I have a question for you. Was it Chase Young that brought out something extra in Nick Bosa, or was it the bye week? Because we're talking about the exact same time. And remember, Nick Bosa holding out and missing all of training camp and trying to get in condition while playing football games probably blew him up. And I'm willing to bet that it was much more getting yourself into shape and then having a rest week so that you can kind of play catch up than Chase Young, because I don't see necessarily Nick Bosa getting double teamed less or getting held any less or anything else. What I do see is him pursuing backside plays, him, you know, running after ball carriers, where early in the season we saw him kind of like not hustling. Is that a mental thing, or is that I actually finally feel good and feel like I'm in shape? So that's my question, which it might be a little bit of both, but, you know, can you hang your hat on $20 million a year for a little bit of both? At this point, I would say no.
I agree. At 20 million a year, the answer is no, right? But I do think it's both. I do think that the bye week helped Nick Bosa. So let me, you know, just make that boom. Let me plant my flag on that. The bye week absolutely helped Nick Bosa, but I don't think it was being in shape. If there's one thing we know about the Bosa brothers or the Bosa family, they take their training to a different level. The 49ers have never said Nick needs to be
football
here.
shape. Sorry. I should
No. Yeah.
Build the calluses, you know, willing to get more into the scrum, willing to dive into the pile. Whereas I feel like he was, and we talked about this, right? He was a little more timid and tepid early on, not pursuing, not really diving in there. And I just wonder if he just kind of had to build up those calluses. And then once you're all banged up and bruised up and calloused up, that week off that you would normally get in the last preseason week, he didn't get. So then maybe the bye week is part of that.
Yeah. And so that's really what the team has to decide on, right? They have to figure out what was the spark behind the change in Nick Bosa. And when I say change, it's more reverting back to who he was with the Niners, not who he was after the signing of Chase Young, right? Like, did he get back into football shape? Did he have those calluses that Matt spoke of once, you know, the bye week came here? But whatever the reason was, Chase Young plus Nick Bosa equaled more production for Nick Bosa. And that's something that the team has to take into account. You know, we talked about Nick Bosa plus D Ford, and we remember what that short, small window was like. Now we're talking Nick Bosa plus Chase Young. That edge, a good player coming off of that opposite edge has a value. How do the Niners go about addressing that now is what the real question comes. And if you can get a guy like Chase Young on a cheap, like I said, due to injuries and all that stuff, it may be worth it to keep him around. Or you go out there and get a top tier, you know, high second round guy late in the first round to play opposite of Nick Bosa. So I do think that it changes the way that the Niners even look at the draft boards going forward. So it's a win-win for the 49ers, no matter how you try to spin it. And it was good to see Nick Bosa go out there and say, I refuse to let some outsider come in here and take my title on this team as a sack leader. So I liked it no matter how you try to spin it.
I think for me, I understand the emotional, the mental, like that presence that he brings, just being Nick Bosa's, good college friend, best friends, however close they were, and just kind of having somebody of that caliber on the opposite side. All I'm saying is there have been too many games that have gone by where the man did not record a stat to get him that high payday that will likely come. I mean, Mike, what would you say a team-friendly deal even looks like for Chase Young? Are we talking a 1-year prove-it deal? Are we talking a 2 to 3 year, minimum? What are you talking here?
You sign him to a 3-year deal where the second and third year are options, and there's a lot of incentives in there. The first year, I would say the base is probably like $12 million, upwards of 16 or 17 based off of incentives and playing time and snaps and all that stuff. Because the one thing that Chase Young was doing in Washington that he did not do here was all the snaps. He was a 3-down lineman as opposed to coming here where he was clearly a part of a rotation. And if the Niners choose to get more out of him from that perspective, then his agent is going to try to get a contract based off of a snap percentage, a production, and he's going to build it all into the contract that he could potentially get here. That's the team-friendly deal, with it all coming in incentives later on. And the Niners, we've seen it time in, time out, where the incentives, we want to put them in there to encourage you and to get that kind of play out of you. And if it looks like you're going to get it and you fall a little bit short, we saw it with Richard Sherman. You know what? It was $13 million a year, but we'll give you the 16 because you were 1 interception away, or you were 1 or 2 snaps away from the snap count, or whatever it was. The team doesn't mind paying those incentives out. And that's the cool thing about the 49ers, is that they don't mind paying for production. If you're going to come in here and you're going to be the guy that we thought you were going to be, and for whatever reason, if you ended up being taken out, because we got to be honest with ourselves here, right? When the Niners were winning games, we were winning them by multiple scores. There's no need to have Nick Bosa and Chase Young out there, right? So you're not going to reach those incentives. When you know that it's a double possession, multiple possession lead that the Niners have, and you have those guys sitting on the sidelines, well, that's when the edge rushers really get busy, knowing that the opposing teams have to pass. Well, then you go back and look at the tape. Chase Young wasn't out there. Nick Bosa wasn't out there. And that's when they really that's when they start to pad their stats. So they weren't out there. And I think the Niners are smart enough to, calculate all of that into whatever potential contract they may offer to him.
Okay. All right. Yeah, just I needed to bring that up because it's just something that's been on my mind for a while.
Don't we think that's like the 49ers could draft somebody and then keep them under team control for 5 years? They have a first-round pick this year. I'm always the one who's like, don't go edge in the first, but I think in this situation, you could probably get away with it due to the people that you have to pay. I just wonder if that would be a more sound, and I know that Young is a known quantity or whatever, but I just feel like while I would be on board with what Mike suggested, I just don't think that that's realistic for him to accept a 12-year base with like incentives. I think that he would want more. He's going to definitely want more, but do you think another team is going to give him $17 million a year based off of his injury history? 100%. There's going to be teams that are going to be desperate out there. 100%. People overpay for other players all the time. And because he's a name, he's going to get an opportunity. Because he has that first-round cachet, he's going to get that opportunity. He was the second overall pick in his draft class. And, people might chalk it up to, well, he had 5 sacks in Washington, and, he had 2.5 here, a 7.5 sack season coming off of an ACL injury. Like, there's probably potential there for him to have a really big bounce back year, and people will take on that potential. I mean, here, Eric Armstead got paid off of a double-digit sack season. We paid Javon Hargrave off of a double-digit sack season. There are teams out there for edge, a premium position like that will overpay for somebody who might not necessarily deserve it. It is one of the positions, along with cornerback and quarterback, that I think that people will overpay for.
Yeah, those are the 3 premier positions in the NFL. Now, let me ask you guys this question, no rebut at all, regardless of what your answer is. Do you think him being traded at the deadline hurts or helps his value? Just the fact that a team was willing to let him go when they could have potentially kept him and tried to get him for a team-friendly deal. Do you think that hurts or helps his value on the free agent market?
I think that it might have hurt had they not also traded Montez Sweat. It was clear that Washington was just blowing the whole thing up. So I think that, they got decent compensation for him. It wasn't, barn burning compensation, but then you also have to understand, are they going to be able to extend him, and based off of what they did with Montez Sweat as well. And the fact that now the Commanders have essentially a clean slate. They have the number 2 pick in the draft, I believe. Mm-hmm. They have the most cap space going into next season in the NFL. They're going to find a new GM and a new head coach, and they're just starting the whole thing clean. I think people will look at that situation and look at it in a way that won't necessarily hurt Chase Young and might actually help him, because they're going to say, coming off of an injury, he was also traded during the season. This might explain the lack of production, and people will talk themselves in to Chase Young.
Oh my God. We just got $100 super chat from Gray Fox 198. Thank you very much, Gray Fox. Hey, fellas, just want to show support for my favorite 49ers podcast. Hope you had a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. One question, just for fun. If Purdy was the quarterback in the 2019 Super Bowl, what would the final score look like? Thank you very much again for your contributions. You're fantastic. Thank you very much. Oh, man.
39-20 49ers.
39-20.
Yeah, they had a lead going with 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter before Jimmy jimmied himself out of a Super Bowl. So with Brock Purdy, I don't think it would have been a question at all. And we've seen how efficient the offense is under him. Just look at his numbers: first, second, top 10 in essentially every meaningful quarterback statistic. So,
yeah. I agree. I don't think it would have been close. I think the 49ers would have ran away with it, just to say. I mean, he definitely doesn't miss Emmanuel Sanders on that deep ball. He hits him. It's funny. I rewatched the 49ers week 2 matchup versus the LA Rams in LA. Do you guys remember the narrative after that game? I'm sure you do off the top of your head. It was Purdy can't throw deep because he missed a handful of deep throws to Debo and Ayuk, Jennings that were open. Ever since then, he's basically become the best deep ball thrower in the NFL, statistically speaking. So he definitely lights up that defense, that Chiefs defense in 2019. I think the 49ers win this one. And I'm going to say, because he's good for it, 42 to 23 or whatever. Look at his playoff games. I mean, I know Dallas he didn't light up, but a similar, in my opinion, defense in that Seattle Seahawks last year. He lit up for 40-something points. It could have been more if Ayuk calls that in the back of the end zone. Mike, what do you think?
I'm going to side with you. I'm going to say like 47-13. I don't think the Chiefs even score close to that. And the reason is because this team, specifically the defense, they really feed off of the energy from the offense. It's really weird. It's so complimentary that it looks one-sided, right? Like when the Niners are on, they're on both sides. It's rarely one side is on, the other side isn't, right? We have the outlier with the Raiders game, right? I think they kind of overlooked that Aiden O'Connell. Was it Aiden O'Connell? What was it? What was the name of the quarterback that they had that game? I think they kind of overlooked him, and it ended up being an offensive shootout, right? The defense just was kind of like Stidham. That's who it was. Aiden O'Connell. Oh, that's their guy this year. It was Stidham. Yeah, it was Jarrett Stidham, right? And it was like the defense kind of overlooked the Raiders' offense that game. But normally, for the most part, and if you look at what happened this year, the more on the offense was, the more the defense was on. And I think that in a Super Bowl like that, if we had a guy that could deliver the way that Brock Purdy is delivering this year, when the offense is on and they're firing on all cylinders, the defense is just more fired up and is looking to give more opportunities to the offense. And so I think that we would have been more aggressive. I think they would have been smothered more. I think Patrick Mahomes would have been running for his life that entire Super Bowl. And I think it would have been really, really one-sided in favor of the 49ers. We heard how many reports afterwards, we were glad they stopped running the ball, right? Like we heard Honey Badger go out there and say that, like that was his direct quote. We were happy that they stopped running the ball. So that would not have been the case if Brock Purdy was in there at that time.
Hell, Honey Badger, Charvarius Ward said the same shit. Yep. He was like, we wanted Jimmy to beat us. But here's the thing. If you put Brock Purdy in that offense immediately gets better. You have a younger George Kittle. You have, Raheem Mostert in his most prolific playoff season. And, you have all these other guys, Deebo Samuel and all that. You mean to tell me that with the defense that I believe in 2019 is probably better than this year's defense? You still had a Richard Sherman who wasn't quite like past his prime, right? You had, essentially just overall, I think a better defense. You had Tart and Ward back there, and it's just
D
it was
Ford.
one of those things. D Ford when he was healthy. You had Nick Bosa coming off of that abdominal injury or the ACL. Was it the ACL? No, it was the abdominal injury in college. They had just drafted him or whatever, and like I don't know, man. I look at it as like that Super Bowl season. It was nice. It was nice. It was a nice team. Jimmy kind of held it back. You make the Emmanuel Sanders trade at the deadline. I think Brock Purdy carries that team, that offense at least, and the defense, like you said. Yeah, I might be underselling 39-20, man.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you again, Gray Fox. That was amazing of you. We really appreciate you, and thankful for you just tuning in, let alone the contributions. It's funny when you look back at that 2019 team and really all the teams with Jimmy Garoppolo at the helm. And I don't want to take shots at Jimmy. He helped turn this franchise around into a winning team again. But it cracks me up when throughout his entire time here as a starter, the kind of other teams, other fan bases would crack on him and say, oh, the Niners are dragging him to a Super Bowl. Oh, the Niners are dragging Jimmy. He's weighing them down. And now that Purdy's having success, they're like, oh, we saw Jimmy lead that team to a Super Bowl. We saw Jimmy carry that. It's like, wait a second. When it was all happening, you were talking about how Jimmy was the weak link, which in their defense, he was. This looks nothing like how the 49ers play with Jimmy Garoppolo. Brock Purdy is much more efficient, takes care of the ball more. It really is impressive. The one thing I'll kind of knock him on is it seems like his interceptions kind of come in bunches, which is weird, but it seems like that's happened this season. Hopefully he got them out of his system.
I don't know, man. I still toss that Ravens game in the trash. Like those
Agreed.
interceptions were such bad luck. I mean, people were like, "Oh, don't throw that to Kittle across your body." Dude, he's done it multiple times, and it's been touchdowns before. So, like, you want him to take those chances. And you're talking about a defensive back who makes a hell of a play on a design screen play, and then you get one where his arm is hit in the pocket. Like I said, you could have 1,000 more Brock Purdy games and never have another performance with like that in that same way, where it seemed to be just bad luck after bad luck. First interception, definitely on him. But I mean, they were moving the ball, right? And minus those bad luck interceptions, I think they get more points, and it's a closer game at the very least. So
I agree.
And then in the other two ones, like, weren't we talking about maybe he was concussed in both games?
Yep.
So I don't know. I reserve judgment so far. There's still things like I'm super encouraged by Brock Purdy in that he's going to get some MVP votes, something that Russell Wilson never got when he was in Seattle. But, it's still so new, right? We'll know more next season. And I hate to say that because we know a lot, but again, do we know that his interceptions come in bunches? I don't know that yet. It has so far, but that's not necessarily what the future is. As we saw with Jimmy established a very predictable pattern, right? Every time he points, it's going to be a pick, right? Every time he pats that ball, it's going to be a pick, right? Anytime he runs around, the ball's going to go somewhere you don't want it to go, whether he fumbles it backwards, whether he steps out of the back of the end zone and throws a pick 8. Like, he established those trends over the course of a couple seasons with us. Because remember, after the 2017 5 games that Jimmy Garoppolo played, we were like, oh shit, like he's the dude, right? And then he gets injured after a 1-2 start, and then we're like, okay, well, maybe next year. And then 2019 has a pretty good season, the best season of his career, and we get to a Super Bowl. And then 2020, injury plagued year. 2021, right? They drafted Trey Lance. He's not doing that great. So it's just a lot. I think we need more time to determine if he throws those interceptions in bunches.
And to Jimmy's credit, something he also established as well is when he throw an interception, the following drive was good for 7. You would always throw a touchdown on the following drive of an interception. So
at least in 2019.
Yeah.
2021, he's going like, God, your plays effing suck, man. Remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
And then they tried to pass that off like, oh yeah, it's jokes. It's like, that's not jokes, dude.
He tried saying, I don't remember what I said. They say a lot of things out there. You know, you never know what you say. All right. I think as far as this season, it went about as well as the 49ers could have asked. I mean, we talked about it in the Commanders outcome recap show. Whereas if somebody told you Brock Purdy's stats, what they would have been back in July, like we all would have jumped all over them. We would have said 100%, yes, I'll take that. And for some reason, now that we're here in January, about to go into the playoffs, there's this weird like downplaying and kind of trying to be like, well, he did it, but it wasn't that impressive. He did it in 16 games. And you could also count the handful of fourth quarters he basically sat out because the 49ers were up so big. The Rams game in week 2, I believe, was the only game that they won that they did not win by multiple scores. And that's only because the Rams kicked a field goal down 10 as the clock expired. Otherwise, they would have won that game up multiple scores. But just the top stat leads for the 49ers, Brock Purdy, 4,280 yards, broke a 49ers record. Christian McCaffrey, 1,459 rushing yards. Ayuk, 1,342 receiving yards. Fred Warner, 132 tackles. Charvarius Ward, 5 interceptions. And you also got George Kittle with 1,020 yards. Deebo Samuel with 892 yards. I mean, it was just an insane year for this team overall. And Mike, I'm going to throw it to you. If you had to summarize, grade, explain to somebody that knows nothing about the 49ers this year's team, what would you say? How would you grade it? What do you think of it?
I would say 2016 Falcons is what I would say. I mean, the fact of the matter is you had Deebo over 1,000 all-purpose yards, Ayuk over 1,000 all-purpose yards, Kittle over 1,000 all-purpose yards, Christian McCaffrey over, did he get 2,000 all-purpose yards?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yep.
He did.
He did.
Over 2,000 all-purpose yards. I mean, like, guys, what more do you need to see? And then I didn't even mention Brock Purdy setting the franchise record in 16. Like, that's real, right? If he broke that record in game 17, it would be like, well, kind of. But even then, you can still add a little caveat of how many games didn't he finish? Right? How many games did he not go out there and have to play because it was so close, right? And this goes back to my point with the defense feeding off of the success of the offense, right? That's how good the defense was when the offense seemed to be turned up all the way. This team is firing on all cylinders at the right time. That's the truth of the matter. I understand that some people were a little disappointed with how the last game ended, and me for one. And the only reason I was disappointed with the final game is because I predicted the Niners to go 13-4, right? But this was a game that neither team cared to win. This was a game that neither team really game planned for. I don't think either one of them wanted to show a lot. And even then, the battles inside, the smaller battles that didn't matter, it took the second half for Puka Nacua to get a very easily sustainable record. Right, he should have, for all intents and purposes, he should have got that in the first half.
Yep. Right,
but Kyle made it a point. No, we want to try to make him stay out there as long as possible. And what they did was they moved him around to get him off of Lenore. He got the first big play, and they were like, "All right, we're going to put Lenore on him now," and it was lights out. When Lenore was moved to Puka Nacua, that's something you got to pay attention to. If we're going to play them again later on, that's the matchup you should expect to see, because when Lenore was on him, he did nada. He didn't do anything out there against the 49ers that was worth counting, right? It wasn't until they started moving him around, using him and moving him in motion and all that stuff and running him across the formations and all that after they snapped the ball to get him that record, right? And then show him able to, okay, cool, you did it, get out of here. Like, you got your little mask on and all that stuff. Go over there and hug your mom. Like, that was it. They couldn't wait to get him off of the field because they didn't want to risk any more injuries. And so this team is locked in. They are ready to go. And when the metal hits the road, when it's really time to make the tough decisions, they know exactly what they need to do to keep certain teams in lock and under control. So I have all the confidence in the team. Even there were still positives to take away from a loss against the Rams in a game that the Niners clearly didn't care about. So there were plenty of positives to take away from it. So I think this team is ready. I think this bye week in the postseason is coming at the perfect time, and we are going to be a force this postseason.
Matt, before I toss it to you, you mentioned the Ravens game and kind of how much of a fluke that was. Debo Samuel said something very similar on the Kay Adams show, and he was like, aside from the first throw, that was really the only bad throw that Purdy made. The Ravens defenders just made really good plays on the ball. And I agree with you. I highly doubt we see that again from a 49ers player, from Brock Purdy, from in a game. It was just so fluky. And not to say that the Ravens players didn't make it happen, because they did. They jumped up, they tipped those balls, they were there to catch them. But it's very unlikely that happens again. And I think the 49ers have all the confidence in the world in Brock Purdy. And I agree with what 49ers throwback said here. Brock Purdy made Ayuk and Kittle better. I mean, we've never seen Ayuk play at this level. Ayuk is playing at historic levels. George Kittle, as soon as Brock Purdy came in, George Kittle became a red zone threat. Jimmy Garoppolo, for whatever reason, just refused to look his way in the red zone. And bam, he has a career high in touchdowns. Brock Purdy, last season when Brock Purdy took over for the second half of the year, this year he has 1,000 yards. The three of us were sitting on here, maybe this offseason or last, I forget which, talking about George Kittle's peaked. He may be traded. The 49ers are going to have to eat a lot of money to keep him. Maybe they should move him. He looks as good as ever. He looks like the best tight end in the NFL this season. So it really is impressive. But Matt, I wanted to get your thoughts on the season as well, what you thought of the 49ers overall, and would you have believed me if I told you back in August this is what the stats would have looked like?
Well, I mean, for Brock Purdy, yes. Zach, the tweet that I'm talking about. I just posted it.
That's true.
Chat. I made a prediction about Brock Purdy's statistics and what he was going to finish, and I think that I got about as close as you could possibly get. Go ahead and pull that up for me real quick, yep. Zach. I'm not one to usually toot my horn, but I feel like I did a good job on this one.
Let me change the screen here.
So that was my prediction. 68% completion, 4,218 yards, 31 touchdowns, 12 picks. That's about as close as you can get.
Yeah.
And that was in September.
What were the actual numbers? Do you guys have that over there?
I have it right here.
9.4% completion percentage, 4,280 yards, 31 touchdowns, 11 interceptions.
God damn it, that boy Matt is good. That's my dog right there. That's my dog. That's how you do that shit, bro.
Somebody told me, posted below, because I retweeted it or something. And they were like, dude, did you put money on that? And I'm like, I probably should have at that point.
Yeah. That was really impressive.
Yeah, I was, I believed in Purdy. And then below, if you scroll down, I think he flirts with finally surpassing Jeff Garcia for single season passing yardage record. Yeah. So in Purdy, I believe the Kittle thing. I know we were all on the Kittle thing, and I know that our friend Melissa Rebele was pretty upset that we were like, hey, we might need to get rid of Kittle. And Zach, you touched on it. For whatever reason, Jimmy could not get him the ball. The first 5 seasons of his career, George Kittle had 20 total touchdowns. That is 4 per season. In the last 2 seasons, Kittle has 17 touchdowns. One of these things is not like the other, and I think we know clearly what it is. But yeah, I if you would have told me that the offense would have been kind of the driving force of this team over the defense, and that's not to take away from the defense, right? We're kind of spoiled in the defense, but historically, this season's 49ers defense is not on par with the 2019 or the 2020 group or the 2021 group. It's a little bit depressed from those teams. The thing that's changed is the offense. The offense can now, like you said, Zach, can carry games when the defense needs them to. And I think that that's been a huge factor in what's going on. As far as other stats, Brandon Ayuk, I expected to go off. Christian McCaffrey, I expected to go off. Quietly, Nick Bosa has 10.5 sacks. Javon Hargrave, for all the people giving him stuff, has missed 2 games, 3 games really this season, played in 14, has 7 sacks. That's a sack every other game from the defensive tackle position. That's not bad. Yeah. So there's been a lot of things that I kind of expected. Some minor surprises, like Ji'Ayir Brown stepping in seamlessly for Talanoa Hufanga. I did not expect. the fact that, Charvarius Ward is probably going to be an all-pro this season. I didn't necessarily expect that. Giamador Lenore quietly having a great season. Ambry Thomas stepping up, right? When they made the switch from Isaiah Oliver to Ambry Thomas, it was rough for like a week, but then it's gotten a lot better, in my opinion. So I've been very impressed. I could not be happier with the way that this team finished. 12-5 doesn't sound great, but when you look at what they needed to get to where they are, they're the number 1 seed. They busted all the teams except for Baltimore that they needed to bust, in terms of dominating and everything like that. But again, like you said, Zach, that game was so wacky that if we met them again, I would actually expect to completely see the opposite happen and us dominate Baltimore. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm happy, man.
Yeah.
The best thing about the loss, this is going to sound crazy. Okay. The best thing about the loss to the Ravens is that what they did was so successful. There's no one in that building that's going to say we should stray from what we did. Right? So they're going to say, that's the game plan. We got to run it back that same way. And we got them. Even if it's a little bit closer, we should still be able to edge it out. Meanwhile, if you really go back and watch that game, the Niners were like, we were there except for those inopportune turnovers. I know that sounds like, oh, well, how do you ignore the turnovers? How do you ignore the turnovers? They were tips at the line of scrimmage. They were balls off of the hands of the wide receivers and George Kittle, right? Like that's what happens. That if that's what you're banking on to beat this team, you're screwed.
Yeah.
You are screwed in the Super Bowl. Like that is not the way that you can't go into that game and say, all right, guys, give me 5 turnovers and we got this.
Right.
It's not happening.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
Yeah.
So I like our odds against the Ravens if when we see them again, whatever, however you choose to phrase it. And I'm not worried. I'm not worried about any team in the NFC. There is a team that makes me a little bit nervous. I'm sure we'll get to that later. And there is one team in the AFC that makes me a little bit nervous, but it's not the Ravens.
Let me just add real quick. I think the Ravens, it's more likely that the Ravens don't make it through the AFC than they beat the Niners in the Super Bowl if they do make it through the AFC. Because I don't think they will. I mean, this looks like a different Ravens team. We haven't seen them perform when the lights are brightest. We haven't seen Lamar show up. He's won 1 playoff game. I think he's 1-2 or 1-3. Purdy's won more playoff game, being in the playoffs 1 year. So that's all I'll say. We don't even know if they'll make it out of the AFC. But yeah, going back to that game, Mike, the Niners had roughly 300 yards of offense in the first half. And again, Debo said this on Kay Adams' show. The game, we turned the ball over 3 times, and the game was 16-12. Like with 3 turnovers, counting the 3 turnovers. So, what's crazy is what we saw, was it 2 weeks ago in Miami or in Baltimore? I think it was in Baltimore against Miami, where everything was fine other than some injuries for them, and they just got whooped. I mean, the 49ers didn't do that, and they turned the ball over 5 times, and they still were within a scoring range to make it a 1-possession game at the end of the game. Like, that's how crazy this game was, and really puts it into perspective. The Dolphins were at going as hard as they could for as long as they could, and they still gave up 50-something points, so just give it in perspective.
And you guys said it as soon as we did our overreaction show or our reaction show to it. It was like, if this is what your team does with 5 turnovers, you're in trouble. And that remains the bottom line here. If you're banking on that kind of production from your defense, something's off. It's great that you got it when you needed it. And that's why you play the games, because it could happen on a long shot. But, I could also buy the winning Mega Millions ticket also. It's just not likely to happen. And it's definitely less likely to happen twice in one season.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. Matt, you got a question here. Did you like the Fred Warner podcast this week?
I will admit that I don't listen to that podcast, to be honest.
The clips are good.
No shade. I know that people enjoy it. It's just not something that I want to necessarily listen to. Just like I don't listen to Eric Armstead's podcast and, a lot of those things. Honestly, I need time that's like not 49er stuff. I mean, I have a 4-month-old daughter. I'm married. I work full time, whatever. I just, I know a lot of people are just like 49ers life. Everything is about that. For me personally, I'm more of I diversify, right? Like I like to play games. I like to go out and hang out with people and stuff. So I did not watch it, but if you let me know what he said, or if there is a clip or whatever, I'm definitely willing to react to it, because I have seen clips of the show that I appreciate. Particularly after losses, I'll look at clips of that show because I think that Fred Warner is kind of the heartbeat of that defense. So that kind of stuff interests me for sure.
Matt, while it's just us, your guy Moody may have fallen, I don't want to say into a slump, but he missed 2 kicks on Sunday.
I mean, Moody's fucking fine. You guys need to relax. Dude, he's like 6th in field goal percentage and like 1st in PAT percentage.
Yep.
He had just set the record for consecutive PATs with 60 in a row before they moved that, like since they'd moved that ball back or whatever.
Yeah.
Y'all tripping, man.
He was 62
of
62.
He's going to have a rags to riches tale where like he struggled in the regular season and it's going to be like, can Moody do it? He hasn't been able to do it all season. And then he kicks us the Super Bowl victory. That's what it's going to be. Like he pushes right. I get it, but he's going to get it dialed in, dude. Like he had that little thing, and then we talked about it, right? He just needs one kick to get him back on track. And then he was on track for the rest of the season until this last game that didn't mean shit. So I don't know, man. He's had multiple big kicks in the Big Ten and in college football. He's had kicks here. It's just been inopportune times that he's missed, but dude, he's fine, man.
Do you guys think that, how we've seen punts from Wisnowski, and they say, "Oh, he's working on this kind of kick. He was trying this during the game." Do you think that kickers try certain kind of kicks, like if pressure's coming hear me out, if pressure's coming from the left side, you try kicking it right to see if it can pull back to the left and things? Do you think that they try things like that, especially in meaningless games?
I think he could, particularly given the last time that he was having those misses. Minus that, he had one miss that in Minnesota indoors. But the week before that, when we were talking about the game-winning field goal, it was Cleveland outdoors. It was cold, right? This was the first time in Santa Clara that it had actually been cold, that you saw people bundled up a little bit, that it was a little bit cold. He could have been. I don't know that they necessarily do that during the game, just because unlike a punter, kicking counts for points, and it's like a rhythm-based thing. I think punting is like, hey, let me give this a shot, because it's like, the worst that happens is that it goes out of bounds and they get, a little bit better field position than I would like. So from that end, I don't think that they, try like knuckle kicking or anything crazy like that. But I think he's fine. I don't think that it's a big issue. And maybe he sees something in the way the wind is blowing or something like that, where he's, seeing how it goes. I don't know. I think that the extra point miss was just a miss. And then, he just missed the next one too. So
the thing that concerns me the most about Moody is it seems like it devastates him. Like it seems very mental, like whatever it is. And if you see him on the sidelines or after the game, I think the one that sticks out most clearly is the Cleveland game, where they went and interviewed him in the locker room, and he was just, just missed a kick and feel bad. Like he seemed devastated. But then again, you want a player that cares. Like you want a player that it does affect you when you let your team down. So I see both sides. I really hope it's not like a slump or a mental thing that he can be so iffy either way. He can be iced, Mike, we talked about it after the Steelers game, where Coach Tomlin pretty clearly told his special teams, you go block that kick. I don't care if you're offsides. I don't care if you run into him. You're going to block that kick. If they do that, then who knows how the year goes for him. But luckily he made it anyway, and he had a very good year, other than a couple misses. But yeah, do you have an opinion on this, Mike? Are you worried about him at all going into the playoffs?
I'm not worried about him, and it's mainly because of the bye week, right? I know a lot of people were like, "Oh, well, he missed this kick, and it was at home, and blah 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 blah." And I just saw him just getting ready, right? Every time they, when the Niners took the field for that last drive where Sam Darnold ended up fumbling the ball, They showed him, and he was kicking, and he was backing up, and he was readjusting and things like that, and he was moving. You could tell that is it going to be a right hash kick? Is it going to be a left hash kick? Is it going to be down the middle? You could see that he was working on the positioning of it and everything. And unfortunately, he didn't get an opportunity to do it. I saw a comment in here that said, in addition to Master Chefs, right, we're good and we'll be better in the playoffs. The bye week is going to give him an opportunity to not only work on those clutch and game-winning kicks, but to work on them on the game field. Because we don't have to worry about a game being played there for 2 weeks. It's like, hey, you can actually go out there on that field with those same wind patterns, and you can work on this in different times of the week when the weather is going to be different. So you can prepare in all of them. It can be a sunny day out in Santa Clara, and it can be a nighttime thing. And he had the opportunity to go out there and sincerely work on them, whether he's got a holder and a snapper and a line going after it or not, or if he's just using the little stand that holds the ball for him. He has the opportunities for 2 weeks now to go out there and prepare in any kind of weather. And with it being winter, they're probably going to get some wind. They're probably going to get some rain. And he has that opportunity to prepare for it. I am more confident in him now because of the bye week than I was during the season, and what I would have been if we had to play the following week immediately after, and they only had to practice on the practice field. Because of that extra time, it affords us that luxury of being able to say, hey, let's unlock the stadium. Let's see if we can just put on the night lights. And that's another thing, right? Like maybe the lighting isn't 100%. We can go out there and work on all of these things. If something's in your face, count it as a distraction. If the lights aren't quite as bright as they would be on a game day, now we have the option to go out there and work on it. And I hope, we'll never find out, but I hope the Niners take advantage of that and they go out there and say, let's make sure that he's ready for this moment. I think he was ready for that moment. I think that he would have gone out there and made that kick, and the final score would have been 23-21. But like Matt says all the time about ifs and buts,
all the much worse. Exactly. I would have liked to have seen him get the opportunity for sure.
That's what sucked.
And going into the game, I said it before the game. Going into the game, I said I hope that the Niners give him a couple of 60-yard opportunities. Right? We know we're going to have home field advantage. Let's see what he can do with a 61-yarder at home against a real opponent. And if Darnold doesn't fumble that ball, we're in that territory. Just see what happens. Hey, you're not going to knock us out of the first seed. Go out there, be as relaxed as you possibly can, knowing that it doesn't affect anything, and you go out there and do what you got to do. Right? To me, that's more pressure than the actual game on the line, because now it's like, hey, we're judging you off of this versus we hope you make this. Now we're judging you to see if we can even line you up in that position, or do we have to go for it on a 4th and 3, right? That's harder to me, knowing you're being evaluated in that moment versus, well, the game is on the line. We don't have a fucking choice. Get out there and go do what you got to do. Yeah. I think it's harder knowing you're being judged by what you're doing in that situation. So I think he was prepared, and hopefully they take advantage of the extra time.
This comment, observe natural evolution. Being a 3rd-round pick as a kicker with all the pressure, he hasn't made a game-winning kick at all this season. He had one opportunity.
One.
Yeah, one opportunity. He barely missed it. It went out the offside.
He made game-winning kicks at Michigan. Yeah. Man, people are so in their feelings. Has he been a net negative for the 49ers this season? Oh, wait. 60 for 61 on PATs, 6th in the NFL in field goal percentage. Like, dude hits 86% of his field goal kicks.
Homeboy is a top 10 kicker.
And by the way, the 49ers still have the number 1 seed, by the way. So how much of a net negative has he been?
Right, exactly. He's a top 10 kicker in his rookie season in the NFL.
Right.
Let that sink in. Just relax for a second and let that sink in. As a rookie, you're a top 10 kicker. You're a top 7 kicker. You know what I'm saying? Like, you were almost a top 5 kicker, and the perfect kicker heading into week 7 or 18 of the NFL season was Brandon Aubrey, the Cowboys kicker. Yeah. And he missed not 1, but 2 field goals in that game and an extra point.
Yeah.
By the way, not only 2 field goals, but 2 field goals under 40 yards.
Exactly.
Oh no, that game was at Washington, so not indoors. But yeah,
no. Listen, dude, kickers go through stretches where they miss. Yeah. How many times did we see Robbie Gould shank extra points?
Yep,
it happened all the time. But what does everybody say? We want Robbie because he was perfect in the playoffs. So by your own admission, by saying, "Oh yeah, Robbie good as gold in the playoffs or whatever. He was perfect in the playoffs, knowing his penchant for missing kicks in the regular season. You're essentially telling me that the regular season doesn't count. So hold your fucking horses. Wait until the games matter. And by the way, like Zach said, other than the Rams kicking a late field goal to bring it within 10 points, the 49ers have never needed Jake Moody to kick a game winner.
Exactly. And that's what we have to drive home here, right? The Niners have never been in that situation where it was like, oh man, you got to make this or we're really screwed here, man. If you miss this one, we're only up by 1 and a field goal is all it's going to take for them, and we're giving them an advantageous field position if you miss this. And the Niners are that good of a team, right? We can sit here and try to create all these crazy scenarios, but let's be honest with ourselves for a second here. Are we worried about the Bucs? We saw what happened when we played the Bucs. Are we worried about the Cowboys? We saw what happened when we played the Cowboys. And let's just say things don't go the same way. How much of a difference is it going to be? Let's just give the Cowboys another 10 points. We still win that game by double digits. Yeah. Right? You understand what I'm saying? Like, let's just you can paint the worst case scenario you could possibly come up with, and it's not that bad. It's not that bad. And we're home. The defense should be firing on all cylinders. The offense should be firing on all cylinders. The guys are well rested. We're getting people back from the injured list. Like we got to be calm here. And if your claim to fame, if your rallying cry, if your war cry is going to be, well, Robbie Gould was perfect in the offseason. How many postseason kicks has this kid missed yet? Exactly. So if that's your standard, then you should be going into the saying, right. Well, we got to.
By the way, real quick, he goes, I'm in my feelings. Playoffs is a different beast. And then he's talking about Robbie Gould missed kicks in the regular season. He literally says, where is it? Where's that shit at? In the regular season. Your contradiction, dude. Back under your bridge, troll.
All I'll say is, in my opinion, other than the Cleveland game, which the very next week, he misses like a 40-yard indoor field goal in Minnesota. The very next drive, Kyle trots him out there for a 60-yarder, and the kid makes it. Like that's probably the highest pressure kick he's had this season. So, and he made it. Well, after the miss.
I think it was like 57. I don't think he has a 60-yarder on his belt.
I swore it was a 60. Oh, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm exaggerating.
No, but it was close to 60. I think his long was a 57 though. But I will look it up right now.
It was 57, Mike.
57. Okay.
But I mean that's damn near, right?
Right. But that's kind of the point, right? Like, so after you miss, let's set you up for your longest attempt of the season, and he drills it. But that's the point. That's the point. You come out after a miss.
Okay.
And now not only are we going to put you back out there.
Sorry, Mike. Listen, bro. You never said Robbie. Matt, you're drunk. First of all, I'm not drunk. Let's not take personal shots at anybody. And second of all, learn how to spell.
All right, let's get into these playoffs. These playoffs predictions. We got the wild card week. 49ers have the bye week, and it's going to be a fun week. We just get to watch some football. We don't have to worry about anything. Let's get out in the NFC, which Saturday only has AFC games. So I guess we'll start on Sunday at 1:30. The Packers travel to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. How do you guys feel about this one? Over-unders at 50. Dallas is favored by 7. They didn't this year. Mike, what do you think?
Well, can I ask a question to you guys before we get into the specific games?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
This is kind of off, but it's on topic, right? Who do you want to play? I understand that we're about to pick who's going to win each game and all that stuff, but forget that for 1 second. Of the teams that are in there, if you had to lay the panel out for the 2 teams that the Niners have to play to get to the Super Bowl, can you tell me what 2 teams you would like to see them beat to get to the Super Bowl in the NFC? Forget, like, we'll go through it obviously game by game, but if you just ignored it and just looked at the panel of the 6 teams that are underneath us, if you could just pick 2 teams that you want to see the Niners beat, who would those 2 teams be? And which is different than picking the winners, because obviously based off of the winners, we're going to get the new standings and all that stuff, and the opponent's going to be dictated by that. But if you could just say, I want the Niners to play this team and I want the Niners to play this team to get to the Super Bowl, who would those 2 teams be? And then we can go game by game, if you don't mind.
it would be for me, the Eagles and the Cowboys. 100%. 100%. They would demolish the Eagles. And even if it's a closer game versus Dallas this time, I think they still take care of business comfortably. So, Matt, who would you pick? Which two teams?
I mean, the Philadelphia Tampa Bay game, I don't care about. Like the 49ers have boat raced both teams this season. The team that I'm most worried about is kind of the unknown, right? It's Detroit. So I'd rather see Dallas or Philadelphia or Tampa Bay. But in my opinion, Tampa Bay and Green Bay could win this week. So I don't think either of those two higher seeds are safe.
All right, Mike, what about you? What two teams do you want to face?
Yeah.
You agree with me?
I love crushing the Cowboys' hopes. So I hope that we get them in the NFC Championship game. And just because the Eagles fans talked so much shit to us heading into the season, going into that game, what was it, week 13, and the whole entire offseason, we stomped you guys and all that. I would love to beat them in the postseason again. So those are the two teams that I would want to be. Now, obviously, it would be a flip. We would have to go through the Eagles first and then the Cowboys. But those are the two teams that I would love for the Niners to just absolutely destroy in the postseason. Now, it might not fall that way when we go game by game, but that's how I would like it to play out. And my picks won't be based off of that. I really will be going based off of the two opponents and who I think is going to win.
Yeah. I'm interested to see how this plays out. We'll start with this Green Bay Dallas game. Over under 50. Dallas favored by 7. Dallas hasn't lost. Dallas hasn't lost at home. If I remember correctly, if my math's correct, since the Jimmy Garoppolo led 49ers went in there and beat them in the was it the divisional round, wildcard round in 2021. So interesting enough. That's the last time Dallas has lost at home, if I remember correctly. How do you guys feel about this game? Who do you think is going to win? Can Green Bay really pull off the upset? What do you think, Matt, Mike?
The Cowboys in the playoffs are an enigma. They'll look really good, and then they'll look really bad. So you never know which Cowboys team you're going to take. And they've been Charmin soft for a long time. So, a team can come in and punch them in the mouth. Green Bay has a pretty good defense. The offense is a little lackluster. If it's a shootout, Dallas is going to win comfortably. But if Green Bay can really kind of lock down Dak, force him into mistakes, then Green Bay can make this a game. And the more that Green Bay is competitive in this game, the more that I think Dallas starts to crumble under the weight of that pressure and could definitely implode. So I think they have a shot. Is it a good shot? No. But particularly because it's in Dallas. But as we've seen in the last couple of years, it's not like Dallas is a guaranteed home game for them. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. It's more wishful thinking on my part just because I think it would be funny. But, yeah.
16-game home winning streak for the Cowboys. So I think my math was right that Jimmy Garoppolo led 49ers in the playoffs for the last team to beat him. Mike, how do you feel about this one?
Yeah, I would be a lot more confident if Ji'Ayir Alexander was playing in this game, and he's not. I think CeeDee Lamb, I didn't realize that Lamb's numbers were right underneath freaking Tyreek Hill's this season. I don't know what I saw that made me realize it, but I was like, wow, this kid's really been cooking. And the Cowboys, for as much as I hate them and all that stuff, I will give them this. They are a different team when they are at home. When that crowd is on their side and when they're on that field, they play very, very different. I think the Cowboys edge this out, and it's not due to Lamb. It's not due to the run game. It's not due to Micah Parsons. I think it's their rookie kicker. I think it's Brandon Aubrey. I really, really respect that young man. This has been, to me, the season of the rookie kickers, and Aubrey and Moody are the two best. I'm going to go with the Cowboys by 2. I think the Cowboys win that game by 2. And I would love for them to lose, but because I hate them. But I'm going to give the Cowboys the win in this one.
Give me the Packers, baby. I got the Packers. Woo! I think they're a young team. Jordan Love started off the year shaky, but he's playing as good as anybody the second half of the season, specifically the last 5-6 games. I think they're the youngest team that's either ever made the playoffs or in 50 years made the playoffs, average age of that team. I forget which it is. But I think they go in there. The good thing about being young is they don't know what they don't know. They don't understand they're not supposed to be there yet. They don't know that it's not their time. They don't care. They're just here and they're ready to upset people. I think Dallas feels like they're this juggernaut. They haven't lost at home in 16 games. There's no way they lose to this up-and-coming Jordan Love. I think they take care of business. Out of Mike McCarthy and Matt LaFleur, is LaFleur the better coach? Like, I don't know. I don't think that's crazy to say. McCarthy has a ring, but not since Aaron Rodgers has he had one. So there's rumors that McCarthy could be out if they lose a playoff game. So give me the Packers.
And the Cowboys have a bad tendency to play down to competition. They really, really play down to competition. And it's the postseason, man. Guys, anything can happen. You'd be surprised at how teams think, how they move when there's nothing to lose. Or everything to lose, I should say, right? Like this is do or die in these moments, and so it's very, very possible that the Niners, that the Packers can go out there and be like, "Yo, we got nothing to lose here, guys. Let's go out there and we're going to call this shot." It's going to be, wow, is this going to be a 4th and 1 punt? Nope, we're going to go for it. We're going to trust Aaron Jones. We're going to trust Dylan. We're going to see if Christian Watson is healthy enough to get out here and play. I don't think he's playing, but we'll see. And that's another reason that I'm a little bit, paused on it, but we'll see how it goes. I like the pick, Zach, but I gotta trust my gut.
I hear you. All right. Matt, did you make a pick on this one?
I didn't. I think the spread is 7.5. I think the Cowboys win, but that the Packers cover.
Okay. All right. I like that. All right. Next game for the NFC wildcard round is Sunday night, and this is the one everyone's talking about. Rams going into Detroit. What's weird to me is that they're calling this a Matt Stafford revenge game. What did the Lions do wrong to Matt Stafford? Like, if anything, this is a Jared Goff revenge game. Jared Goff got kicked to the side by Sean McVay. He essentially gave up on him. Matt Stafford, in his view, was like leaving a sinking ship and was able to go to a Rams team, win a Super Bowl, got everything he needed. So there's no revenge there, in my opinion. But because the Rams beat the 49ers, their backups went at it, and the Rams backups were victorious, they now face the Detroit Lions. Mike, I'm going to toss it back to you. What do you think about this game? Oh, let me get you the over-under. The over-under is 51.5, and Detroit is favored by 3. How do you feel?
So I've been doing a lot of thinking on this game, and I've been going back and forth. And the truth of the matter is this. I think Sean McVay has not let go of Jared Goff saying, yeah, I'd bang his wife. I think that Sean McVay knows the ins and outs of Jared Goff a little bit more than Dan Campbell knows the ins and outs of Matt Stafford. I think Dan Campbell, did he even have him there at all? Like, they traded him right away. I don't even know if Dan Campbell had him for a season, right? For a full season over there. So I think McVay knows the weaknesses of things that kind of will fluster Jared Goff. I'm going to go with the Rams in this game. So we'll see what happens. But I'm picking the Rams.
Okay. I mean, hey, the Lions are kind of beat up. Matt, what do you think? Can the Rams pull off the upset?
I think they can, but I'm gonna go with what I want to happen. I'd like to see Detroit just because Dan Campbell's been fun to watch. So fun coach. If Jared Goff can get out of his own way and doesn't implode, I think that the Lions have the ability. I mean, they have good weapons. It'll remains to be seen if they can overcome some of their injuries. I know Sam Laporta, their rookie tight end, has a knee injury. They have some injuries on defense, but Aiden Hutchinson, stud, Jahmyr Gibbs coming into his own. Amon-Ra St. Brown helped me win a fantasy championship last year. So they got a lot going on, and I think that they can do it. And there's a reason why they were the number 3 seed. They won the NFC North for the first time since who knows when. But yeah, I think 93. It's the first time since 93. And that's when it was the NFC Central, by the way. I don't think they've ever actually won an outright North title since the NFL went to 32 teams. So I'm tired of seeing the Rams. I don't want to play them for a third time again.
Yeah.
Want to play different teams. I think it would be interesting to see something new, even though that is the most concerning team to me.
I agree with that 100%. The Rams, for some reason, I think match up with the 49ers the best. But in this game, I want to see the Lions take care of business, but I don't know if I trust them enough. I mean, Sam Laporta gets hurt playing in basically a meaningless game. The only way the Lions could have moved in week 18 was what Dallas and Philly both had to lose, I think. And that was the only way they could have moved up to the second seed. Philly did lose, but Dallas didn't. So it was kind of pointless. And yet Sam Laporta gets hurt. Looked like a really bad injury. Luckily for them, it wasn't that bad. And he has an outside shot of playing Sunday night per Dan Campbell. This Rams team, I'm not going to pick against them. They feel like they have something brewing. I don't know. I feel like they're going to get up until the championship or divisional. And then I would say divisional because I think they'd play the Niners if that shakes out, they win. And they're going to lose then. But they remind me of the 2021 Niners who kind of caught fire at the end of the year and unfortunately had their demise met by the Los Angeles Rams, who went on to win it all. But I think the Rams pulled this one off and beat the Detroit Lions like 34-30 or something crazy like that. All right, the final NFC game. They pushed this one to Monday night. You know, maybe that's a good thing, maybe it's not. Tampa is hosting the Philadelphia Eagles, two teams that kind of walked ass backwards into the playoffs. At least the Bucs won 9-0 against the Panthers. The Eagles got blown out, ended up going 1-5 over their last 6. And they never recovered from the 49ers whooping their asses. Mike, I'm going to throw it back to you. Oh, let me get you the line real quick. The line is 43.5, and Philly is favored by 3 on the road.
Tampa by 10. I think the Eagles defense has been exposed. I think the Eagles defense has no idea what they're doing. The fact of the matter is, I was listening to a local sports radio station where they cover the Eagles, and they're saying that they don't know if they want Matt Patricia or the other guy, I don't even remember what his name is now, calling the defense for this game. Yeah, decide. They have no idea who they want to call the defensive plays and be the coordinator for this game. This team is in complete shambles. Think about this. They are 1-5 in their last 6 games. The one game that they won, they barely eked out against the Giants. And then when they play the Giants just 2 weeks later, they get blown out. This team is on their way out. I think that Baker Mayfield, Godwin, Evans, I think they go out there and handle business, man. I'm going to take them by 10 in this game. I'm going with Tampa Bay against. And like I said, I wish we could beat the Eagles and the Cowboys, but what I wish versus what I see happening on the field, how it's going to play out, this game is over. Devontae Smith shouldn't be playing in this game. The dude was on crutches not too long ago. A.J. Brown he's hurt also. Even if he's out there, he's going to be a shell of himself. Yep. Now, I don't think that the injury to Hurts' finger is going to be that big of a deal. They said they popped it out. He went back out there later on and played during the game, and then they pulled him finally for the rest of the game. But too little, too late. The damage is done. He's been exposed also. You know, this game right here, they're going up against a veteran, a team with a lot of veterans on the opposite side of them. They're going up against a veteran coaching staff. These guys are going to be well prepared. I'm going to say the Eagles lose this game by 10 points, guys. I think the Buccaneers get this.
I think a 10-point loss, you might see a different coach for the Eagles next year. Matt, what do you think? How do you feel about this one?
Yeah, I'm gonna touch on what both of you guys said. Zach, you said it, a different coach. There was speculation today on ESPN's network that between all of the locker room angst that we've heard about in the Eagles locker room, the 1-5 finish to the season, if they lose against Tampa Bay, I don't think that it's off the table that Nick Sirianni gets the axe. His kumbaya shtick isn't working with the team anymore. His stay together, we play together, whatever. And there's a lot of bad things on tape. Like we talked about, talking crap to fans in the tunnel after you beat a team, not out on the field, you do it in the tunnel is kind of cowardly. And, when you compound that with your security guy, going after and touching a player and getting into a player's face, and then petitioning the refs to get that player thrown out. You look bad. And the team, there are cracks in the armor. The team looks bad. Mike, you touched on it. The defense has been exposed. But one place I will disagree with you, Mike, is the fact that I do think that Jalen Hurts' dislocated finger is going to be an issue. He came out in an interview, and he hasn't thrown a football since that game. He has not thrown a football. And he said that he admitted that going back into that game was a mistake physically. And this is a quote. He said, quote, obviously leaving that game and attempting to go back into that game probably wasn't physically the best idea. Not having much control over the things that I wanted to do, Hurts said. But time will tell with that. And I can assure you things are progressing in the right way. I mean, progressing maybe, but at a snail's pace. If you haven't thrown a football and this was after Thursday's practice, so you're going in there with no practice time and a defense that's bad, and your two top wide receivers are hurt. And not to mention that Baker apparently is feeling dangerous because there's a picture floating around out there with what seems to be a can of dip in his pocket while he's practicing. Dude, this has all the makings of a blowout. I know that's just me personally. I just think it's hilarious. I think it's on brand for Baker Mayfield doing Baker Mayfield things to have a can of dip in his pocket while he's practicing.
I was gonna say, is dip illegal or something? Like, why did that even make
no?
Headlines?
But like, why would you have it in your pocket during practice? It means that you got a big old hunk of chaw in your lip while you're out there throwing dots in practice. So man, he's obviously feeling himself,
baby. Yeah, that's like sunflower seeds to some people, man. You go out there and let those guys do it. I will say this though, Matt. You reminded me of something, talking to the refs and fighting for Greenlaw to get out. They do get Dom back on the sideline. I will say this. If there's any hope for the Eagles, Sirianni calls a better game when Dom is there to protect him on the sidelines. And his suspension was for the regular season. Head of security, Dom, will be back on the Eagles sideline. If there's any hope for the Philadelphia Eagles, it's the head of security instilling some confidence in head coach Nick Sirianni. So that's their knight in shining armor right there. He is the savior for that team. If they go out there and do something good, we gotta bow down to Dom, man. Big Dom is out there calling the
what a sad situation if that's actually
I was trying to find the picture of Baker Mayfield with the can of dip. I think I have it here. This was just hilarious because it's one of those things that you see the imprint of, and it's
completely You don't know exactly, but you know without knowing. That's a can of dip, buddy.
There we go. Shout out to Jack Perardi of the Game Day who noticed it.
It could be Altoids.
They don't make those anymore.
And Altoids come in a rectangle can, brother.
Okay. They don't make... wait. Icebreakers. I'm sorry. The icebreaker. There's a gum or something or a mint that comes in a circular container still.
I think they're icebreakers. But
Bubblicious.
This is hilarious.
What's the tape? The tape gum? What is the gum that came in the tape? That just shows you how relaxed he is. He is chilling while preparing for the bum-ass Eagles. Nobody respects him anymore. Dude, you lost to the fucking Giants. You lost to the Giants. Nobody respects the Philadelphia. The Eagles don't respect the Eagles anymore, guys. I am out here. Their fans.
They certainly don't respect each other.
Yep.
Yeah, like they're pointing fingers at both sides of the ball. On the offensive players are pointing at the hey, I ran the right route. That guy didn't throw it to me. That's not my fault. They are pointing fingers at each other. Look at the ball that you threw. It got this guy hurt. You guys are costing. They are blaming each other. The fan base is in complete shambles. I have talked to Eagles fans. There's a lady at my job, and I wish I was making this up. Her hair has the eagle green streaks in there. And I said, hey, are you going to get it touched up for the playoffs? She said, yeah, I'm going to go back to my natural color. They're over it. They're over it. The team actually made it back to the postseason, and they're over it already. They don't even want to support all the Eagles fans. You know how they do the green light event thing outside your house with the green bulbs? They all had it. And they were telling me, well, I heard about the vets afterward, but I bought the green light because I was supporting the Eagles. like throughout the football season. That's why they had it. That's why the Eagles fans had it. Yeah, we're going back to our regular.
Listen, between Darius Slay saying I played well, but the team didn't play well, between AJ Brown being super mad up on the sideline, which I get is passionate, but you can't, just be showing up and showing out on people, with the corniest platitudes every single week that Jalen Hurts comes out with. The only question that I have that I need somebody to ask Baker Mayfield, because this is going to determine whether or not I truly believe, is that pouches in your pocket? Is it dip pouches, or is it straight up like long cut Copenhagen? Because that's going to make all the difference in the world. All right. If he's out there gutting Cope, that's a 2-touchdown Tampa win.
Yep.
And did you guys hear Nick Sirianni's bum ass speech? We've been down. It's not about being down. You got to get up. We're fighters. The coaches are fighters. The players are fighters.
You've been down for 5 weeks.
Is like that too. That's the whole culture that he's instilled. Is this like
Instagram caption?
We all hold hands around the fire, kumbaya bullshit, and it's not real. These are these are professional athletes that make millions of dollars. They want to win, and when they see bullshit, they're going to call out bullshit because they know that their next paycheck is contingent upon how they do, how they perform, how the team performs. There's not a lot of people trying to pay losers.
Exactly. This is not Rocky 7, bro. All that speech bullshit that you're doing to the press, to the media, it means nothing. Come up with a real good game plan. I haven't seen a single good game plan for the Eagles since before the 49ers game. They didn't have a good game plan against the Bills. They just got lucky and won that game in overtime. I didn't see a good game plan against the Chiefs. They got lucky and won that at the end of regulation. I haven't seen a good game plan for the Eagles in 8 weeks of football. It's done for those guys. They're donezo, bro. It's over for them. And the days of relying on talent versus coaching, it's over because all the coaching staffs in the playoffs are respectable coaching staffs. They do just enough to get the job done. And right now you're going up against it's going to be more about coaching than it is going to be about the players and the skills on the field. Right? Eagles players may be better than some of their opponents, but the Eagles players were head and shoulders better than the Giants in week 18 when they needed that win to possibly get the division. Head and shoulders better. The talent on the Eagles roster was head and shoulders better of the Giants, right? But the coaching staff said, hey, we're going to come up with a plan. You couldn't outcoach them. They're not even going to have the Giants aren't going to have the same coaching staff when week 1 rolls around next year. They're going to clean house, and you lost to them. You expect me to believe that you're going to be a better coaching staff than the Buccaneers? Absolutely not. Sorry. I don't believe it for a second. It's over for them.
And by the way, don't get it twisted. Eagles fans, team, players, locker room, whatever, between the Jalen Hurts story about not throwing the football to, we didn't care that the 49ers beat us. That was y'all's Super Bowl. That didn't matter to us. It was regular season. The excuse is coming. The excuse is already built in. Yeah. And if they lose to Tampa Bay, it's going to be, Jalen was injured and AJ was injured and Devon. If we were full strength, they're going to pull this. Listen, they had the gall to call out the 49ers saying that us missing Brock Purdy last season didn't make a difference in the NFC Championship game. And they're about to pull the same shit this year when they lose.
Yeah. We're going to end this show on I got something fun, special planned for you guys.
Do we want to just briefly do AFC real quick?
Yeah. But I got to do this first. Okay. This is my imitation of Jalen Hurts after they lose on Monday night. Yeah, we tried to do good, and we tried, and we just keep fighting, and we just keep learning, and we just keep learning, and everything's a learning opportunity, and we went down there and we did our best, and it wasn't good enough, and I think what I'm starting to realize is realize. And, my 13-year-old niece told me that, and really sticks. So, I gotta really look myself in the mirror and think about who I am as a person. Thank you.
Listen, that was fantastic. That was fantastic. That's exactly how it is. Listen, anybody who thinks that I'm drinking myself in my own feelings because of a kicker debate, just wait until the entire city of Philadelphia is on a bender because the Philadelphia Eagles lose to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Monday night.
He talks in Instagram captions. This man Googles Instagram captions for teenage girls.
You know what he reminds me of? He reminds me of. Do you remember Rasheed Wallace? Do you remember that the press conference that he was asked, "Hey, what happened in tonight's game?" And he was like, "Both teams played hard. Both teams played hard." In the game of basketball, you got to play hard, and both teams played hard. That's exactly what he is, a walking, like, media trained, just platitude laden, just ball of ridiculous corniness. He's given Russell Wilson a run for his money.
Yeah.
The problem with Hurts, or maybe not a problem, is that he's the face of that franchise, right? They gave him the check. And so now you don't go to the podium without note cards. This is what we want you to say. This is the things that we want you to reflect on, and we want you to make it seem like every game is an opportunity to get better, win or loss. Now, the fact that you had 5 losses out of 6, you got to still say these things. You got to learn. You got to get better. And that's exactly what it is. Some Billy Madison bullshit, right? Like that's exactly what it is, right? Like Zach's impression was spot on, right? Oh, we got to learn. We got to learn. We get better. Like, he has to say it. He can't go up there and be like, oh my God, like, I can't believe we lost this game. He's not allowed to do that anymore, right? It's check your emotions at the door. Here are your cue cards. Go up here and say the right things. And unfortunately, you're never going to get the real raw emotions from Jalen Hurts. He's not that guy. If you want to get the real raw emotions of how that locker room feels, you're going to have to talk to guys like A.J. Brown.
If he'll talk to you, because he didn't talk to media for 3 of the last 4 weeks.
Because they know he's going to throw people under the bus. He's not going to bite his tongue. They know that about him already. You guys traded for me. I didn't ask to come here. You acquired me. So I'm going to tell you guys how I feel. You picked me for a reason. You drafted that guy. He's hurt. You traded and acquired me. You went out of your way to pull me from another team to help you guys out. And what did I do when you guys threw me the ball? When we were losing, when we lost that game, and I pointed it all out, hey, give me the ball. What did I do? I went on a streak. I went on a tear. 125 touchdowns plus every single game. That's what you do when you throw me the ball, and we got wins. Now that the wins aren't coming, he's going to be like, well, y'all know my formula for success already. If these bum-ass guys weren't trying to do X, Y, and Z, that's why they keep them away from the microphone. But so they got to say, hey, no, we got to throw Hurts out there. Sirianni, you got to go out there and motivate some people. Hurts, you got to motivate some people. Those words aren't from Hurts anymore. That's why he can't look up, because you got to remember the cue cards. You got to look down. Everything you did was spot on. I loved that. That was incredible. We should clip that shit and make that the format of the video.
All right, let's do these AFC games. I'm just, look, he seems like a great dude, but he just seems like he's full of shit. Like, I'm sorry. It seems like it's fake. It seems like he's a permanent, like, filter, permanent Instagram caption. I don't know who this man is, because when you see him on the sideline, that looks like the real Jalen Hurts. He's authentic. He talks differently. He's with his friends. He seems authentic. But when he's in front of the media, it's not. It's like you're talking to your boss versus you're talking to your coworkers. You know what I mean? Like, you have that professional filter on. So I don't know. It bugs me.
What was that one movie? It was like a weird movie. It got really weird at the end. But it was about
50 Shades of Grey. I'm just kidding.
No. No, it was about cold calling people, right? And then it was like a black dude, and they were cold calling people, and he's like, "This is my white voice."
Oh,
and it's kind of, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it was with like "Have a Nice Day" or something like that.
Something like that, right? And then it got super weird at the end. They turn into horses. Spoiler alert! Sorry, guys.
It was with the guy from Get Out. He was the main guy in it.
Yeah.
I can honestly say I have no idea what the fuck you guys are talking about. Humans turn to horses. Was it a cartoon?
Chat, you guys know this movie. I know you do. It's the one where that famous clip comes from. It's like, I hope you have a fantastic day. He's like, I hope you have a better day. You know,
like, sorry to bother you.
Sorry to bother you. Thank you. Yes.
Sorry to bother you. Yeah. It's like, this is my white voice.
Yeah,
he's white voice. When he's calling people, he uses a white affectation. But like that, it's kind of the similar thing, right? When he's with everybody, he's himself. When he's in front of the media, that like NFL media training or whatever the team is telling him kicks in, and it's like this total platitude affectation that he has.
Yeah. VZ 408. He could be like LeBron and just say we suck. Do you guys see that he said, my son could start on this team right now? That's how good he is.
Holy shit, LeBron said that?
Yeah, he said that's how good he is. I think you also mean that's how shitty your teammates are, LeBron.
Wow. See, I don't follow basketball until playoffs, so I had no idea that's what was going on.
I mean, neither do I. Very briefly, I just know that my Sacramento Kings can't beat the Pelicans to save their fucking life, but that's about it. Bro, we get blown out every time we play that fucking team.
That's funny.
But listen, it is kind of like that. Darius Slay pulled that same shit. It's like LeBron being like, yeah, I played well. The rest of you motherfuckers didn't. Like, this is what the Eagles are. This is where the Eagles are at right now.
If it makes you feel any better, my favorite team, we have a gentleman who cannot seem to stop beating the hell out of people on the court.
He's got to be a
breakdancing. He's hardcore dancing, throwing elbows and shit. All right, let's get into this AFC playoffs. The first game, Saturday, 1:30 p.m., is the Browns hosting the Texans. Browns are favored by 2, over under 44.5. This is a very interesting game that could go either way, in my opinion. Matt, what do you got?
I think it's Browns all day, man. It's, you got a rookie quarterback in his first playoff game. He's got weapons that are hurt. The Cleveland Browns had the number 1 pass defense in the NFL this year. We know, we played them. And then Joe Flacco has been balling out. What other guy at 38 years old could come up off the couch and throw 15 touchdowns in like 4 games? Like he's doing it, man. And he looks elite, right? The Joe Flacco's elite memes, those memes can come back for a little bit. I think this is one of those situations where you look at the ranking. The Texans needed the Jaguars to choke away that game to even make the playoffs. So with that, I just think that, we're looking at a situation where the Browns played in a more tough division, right? They're the third team in that division that made the playoffs. The only ones that didn't was Cincinnati, who had an injury, who were still in it, by the way, in the last week or two of the season, and needed an injury to Joe Burrow and just a complete shit show of an offense for the entire year to not make it. I just think that the Browns are just the better team overall. That defense is nasty. We found out firsthand. But I think the Browns take it. As much as I like CJ Stroud, and as much as I think that, sorry, Rams fans, CJ Stroud's going to win Rookie of the Year, not Puka Nacua.
Mike, I'll go next because I just got to say the defense for the Browns is fantastic. Joe Flacco's been playing amazingly, but they're on the road. And look, dogs get this really big burst of energy towards the end of their life, right before they die. That's what we're seeing out of Joe Flacco. This is Joe Flacco's last burst of energy. And unfortunately, after this weekend, they're going to have to take him out back to shed and put him down. I got the Texans here. Give me Houston hosting a playoff game. You got D'Amico. You got CJ. They're playing as well. I mean, CJ is making throws he never made at Ohio State. Playing as well as anybody in the NFL. Give me Houston. I think they edge this one out like 21-20. They just barely shut the fuck up, man. They just barely get this win. They sneak by Cleveland and take that, which actually kind of bugs me because I think Cleveland's one of the few teams that matches up well with Baltimore. But I give me Houston. Mike, what do you got?
You guys are leaving me to be the tiebreaker here, huh? I'm gonna say this. I understand that everything had to fall right for the Browns to even make it, right? They lost Chubb. Ford steps up, answers admirably. They lose their starting quarterback in Deshaun Watson. Flacco comes out and has his resurgence. And I agree, right? A dying dog's biggest moments are right before his death. But let me just say this. I think Flacco's biggest moments were the last 2 weeks of the NFL season. I'm going to go with Houston in this game. I agree with Zach right here, guys. While the Browns have the better edge rusher, while the Browns have the better number 1 corner, I just don't think that the Browns offense has enough pieces to confuse the entire defense of the Houston Texans, a D'Amico Ryans led defense. I think it's going to be a nail biter. While I also have it, I have it 22-20, but I'm going to go in favor of Houston, 22-20. I think Houston goes out there 19-20. They drive, they kick a field goal, and they win the game. CJ Stroud with some late game heroics. We're going to run for this first down, get us in field goal range, put the kicker out there, call a timeout. They try to ice him. He kicks the practice kick. He misses it to the left. And then when he kicks the real one, it's right down the pike. Houston wins it by 2. Houston gets the dub. I'm going for Houston in this game.
Damn. All right. We got a picture perfect example of how it's going to work out too. I love it. All right. Afternoon game or evening game, Saturday. The Dolphins head to Kansas City where it's supposed to be like -20 with the wind chill.
-30.
-30. I mean, what a difference losing week 18 at home made for this Miami team. They're in South Beach hosting a game. Instead, they're traveling to Kansas City where it will be the coldest game, or it looks to be the coldest game ever played. I don't know. How do you pick against the Chiefs here? Like, this is how they're used to. This is their home field advantage. They're used to this weather. The Dolphins, who have not beaten really a good team. I think they're 1-6 against, or 1-4 against playoff teams, something like that this season. But on the flip side, the Chiefs also are 1-4 against playoff teams. They're averaging 1 point better than the Dolphins were against playoff teams offensively. I think the Dolphins are averaging a little over 17. The Chiefs are only averaging a little over 18. In this game, I got to go with the better quarterback. And while I like Mike McDaniel, the better coach. So give me the Chiefs. I'm going to say 21-17. I think it's relatively low scoring. The weather plays a huge part. Matt, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, as much as my wife is a Dolphins fan, as much as I'd like to capitulate to what she would want to happen and pick the Dolphins, I can't. Tua's never won a game in his career under 45 degrees. That entire Dolphins team doesn't really want that smoke in the cold weather. They're missing a ton of dudes on defense between Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb and Van Ginkel and, a lot of other guys. They're really banged up on the defensive side. And though Kansas City hasn't been out there lighting the world on fire, at least they are used to playing in this weather. So I think we see a pretty comfortable Chiefs win. They probably win by 10 to 14 points. It's just too much to ask. I will say that it's going to be interesting to just see the overall product itself. I think in that cold weather, even catching a pass is going to hurt. Just standing on the sideline is going to hurt. It's going to be a very interesting game to watch in probably all the worst ways, but it's the NFL, so we're going to watch it anyway.
We're going to see Pacheco run for like 300 yards. Nobody's going to be able to tackle him. He's like a tank as it is.
Raheem Mostert might have 15 touchdowns in this game. Shoot. I don't know. Well, no, he'll probably – never mind.
Yeah, he'll probably break a record or something else. Mike, what do you got?
I am going to go with Miami. Hear me out. While people say that Miami has never won a game under 45 degrees, that is true. However, when they played Buffalo last year in Buffalo, January 15th, they put up 31 points. They did lose that game. I will give you that. They did lose that game, but they lost it 31-34. They lost it 31-34, and Miami has only beaten one team in 2 years with a winning record, and that was the Dallas Cowboys. One team in 2 years with a winning record, and that was the Dallas Cowboys. I think that is a streak that they are looking and itching to get past. And let's be honest here, guys, that Kansas City Chiefs offense has been a shell of itself this year. I'm going to go with the Miami Dolphins. They're going to go out there. They're going to drop another 30, 31 points, and they're going to beat the Chiefs. Chiefs only get 24 points in this game. I'm going to say 24-31 Miami.
Damn. Okay. By the way, the over-under on that is 43.5. Chiefs are favored by 5. All right, this one is probably the easiest one for us to pick. At least maybe I'm putting the cart before the horse. But the Steelers travel to Buffalo. The consequence of Buffalo winning last week in Miami is they now get to host a playoff game. They are favored by 10, and the over-under is 35.5, quite low.
Wait,
Steelers
who?
look different. Buffalo is favored by 10, and the over-under is 35.5. 35.5.
Steelers, Buffalo. I thought you said Miami. I'm sorry. I was going to say, wait, what did I just do? Okay,
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, the consequence of them winning in Miami is now they get to host a playoff game. I mean, do I really have to go into it? I think this will be closer than maybe the NFL thinks or the Vegas thinks, how the lines are set, 10 points. Maybe it's a 7-point game. The Steelers have been playing better with Mason Rudolph. They swept the Ravens. I'm saying that a little sarcastically because I know the Ravens sat their starters. But hey, Kenny Pickett beat these Ravens. So maybe they make it closer than you think. And yeah, Ian Sharp, don't trust the Bills. Too many turnovers. Josh Allen probably can't wait to give this game away. So I'll say the Bills end up winning, maybe not by much of their own doing, like 28-24. Matt, what do you think?
I think this is a blowout for the Bills. I think they win very comfortably. I think it's going to be something like 41-10. Kenny Pickett has small hands. It's going to be a cold game up in Buffalo, and no TJ Watt means no competitiveness on the side of the Pittsburgh defense. So I just think that this is going to be a cakewalk for Buffalo. They're really going to miss TJ Watt on that defense because he's definitely a disruptor. Probably going to win Defensive Player of the Year, but without him and with Kenny Baby Hands Pickett in the freezing cold weather in Buffalo under those bright Buffalo lights, I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah. I forgot they don't have TJ Watt, so that is a huge loss for Pittsburgh. Mike, what do you got?
Yeah, I don't think what's my guy's name? Highsmith has enough in the tank to compensate for both him and TJ Watt. I saw JJ Watt post a picture and said, "Do you think they noticed?" And he kind of cropped himself into the Steelers jersey, right? It's cool and all. It's great that they'll be with him in spirit, but spirit does not equate to production. I'm going to go with the Bills, and I think the Bills win this easily by 13 points. In fact, I'm going to go 34-21, and 21 might be gracious. I don't even know if the Steelers can muster up 3 touchdowns. I think that this is going to be a really, really one-sided game. So Buffalo gets this win.
Okay. All right. Well, those are all of our picks. People are asking what's happened to Mason Rudolph. Nothing happened to Mason Rudolph, right? He's starting, right? They're not going back to Kenny Pickett.
Oh, Kenny Pickett's injured, right? Well, I don't trust him either.
He's healthy now, but they're not going back to him. They named Rudolph the starter.
Shit, in this game, they might. They're going to get blown out.
No. They're saying Mason Rudolph is the starter against the Bills. Yeah.
By the way,
no, I mean mid-game they might because they're going to get blown out.
Yeah. I saw comments talking about the game may be moved. I searched it real quick, and per NFL PR, Brian McCarthy, that is false. The game will happen in Buffalo, regardless of the weather. So, I mean, if they're going to have a game in Kansas City where it's negative 20 degrees, I don't see why they can't have one in Buffalo.
Bingo.
But that's going to do it for the show, guys. I appreciate all you guys. This was a longer show. We recapped the 49ers game, a little bit of the season, previewed the playoffs, both AFC and NFC wildcard matchups. I did see a question here about Adam Peters. I promise you we'll get to that the next show. I have dinner waiting for me, so we got to wrap this one up. Hit like, hit subscribe. All of our handles are on the screen. We bring this show to you guys twice a week, so we appreciate everybody tuning in. Make sure you don't miss anything. So hit like, hit subscribe. Mike, let the folks know where to find you. Got anything else to add?
Yeah, I do have one more thing here. Javier Reyes says, I want Chiefs Super Bowl. He
wants to rip Nick wrong.
Right, wrong. I see what he did there. I want to rip Nick wrong soul, hyping the Chiefs for 2 weeks only to get blown out. So I asked you guys the path to the Super Bowl that you would want to see for the 49ers. What AFC opponent would you want to see the Niners play in the Super Bowl? I want to pose that to you guys based off of his super chat. I want to, before you guys answer, thank you to all of the people who contributed in the super chats, and especially Gray Fox with the super donation there. We sincerely appreciate that. But which team in the AFC would you guys want to see the Niners beat in the Super Bowl? Now, you guys both said, did you both say Eagles and Cowboys?
I think Matt had a different.
For the NFC,
yeah.
I said I for the NFC Championship game, I thought it would maybe be like Detroit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But what do you? So you have us. You want to see us beat the Eagles and then Detroit.
Yeah.
Or was it Cowboys and Detroit?
I have us beating Tampa Bay and then Detroit.
Okay. So then who would you want to see us beat from the AFC side?
I'd like to get revenge against the Ravens. To me, the Ravens are more dangerous than the Chiefs this year. I don't think the Chiefs are going to get out of the AFC because this could be, to do so, they have to play a road playoff game for the first time in Patrick Mahomes' career, most likely. So I don't see that happening.
Good point.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, and Team Cali says it too, Ravens Vengeance for 2012, which I think was the more heartbreaking Super Bowl for me. But yeah, I just, Nick Wright, whatever. I don't care. People say a lot of things about a lot of things that don't matter. And, I want to beat I want there to be no question that, that a team that beat us badly, we're able to return the favor and win a Super Bowl off of that. I don't think anybody outside of Nick Wright thinks that Kansas City is actually that great.
Yeah. I'll go next. Zach, you can give us yours within, and then the next, however you want to close out. But I'm going to go with the Ravens as a team, only because the Ravens beat us this year. And what I don't want to happen is to hear a team say, oh, well, if we only could have made it to the Super Bowl, we would have beat them. That was our Super Bowl. Kind of like the Niners did with the Patriots that year, right? Like, oh, we beat them in the regular season. If we had got there against them, we would have won. But the Giants really were the ones that got there. I don't want to hear those kind of excuses. I don't want there to be any doubt left that the Niners beat all of the best teams available. I'm going to go with the Ravens. I think everyone thinks that the Ravens are a better overall team than the Chiefs this year. So I'm going to go with the Ravens. That's who I would like to see. I understand wanting to get a little bit of revenge against the Chiefs from the 2019 Super Bowl, but this year, the Ravens beat us, and they think they have our number. I don't want them to sit around saying, yeah, we would have got them again, too. So I want to say the Ravens.
For me, I agree with you. It's the Ravens, but I'll give two answers. The one I would love to see the 49ers win against most, Baltimore. The one that I think would be the easiest and most likely, Kansas City. I think if Kansas City gets there, the 49ers are probably favored by 10 points. So it would be nice to get revenge, but Baltimore, it's revenge from this season and revenge from 2012 and revenge from that Thanksgiving hardball bro game that we had to suffer through watching Terrell Suggs terrorize Colin Kaepernick and the 49ers offensive line. It goes deep. So give me 49ers Ravens. It'll be great to see. BC says Lamar ain't getting to the Super Bowl. He may not get out of the AFC. That's what I was saying earlier. But we'll see how it shapes out. He's got a fantastic record against NFC teams. So the 49ers would have to do something that a lot of teams have not done in the NFC, and that's beat Lamar. All right, that's going to do it for this show, guys. Like I said, all of our handles are here on the screen. Make sure you like and subscribe to the show. Follow 49ers Hive. Follow Nothing But Niners. Follow the podcast at RGS Pod. We're getting very close to 1,000 followers on X. Sin says, yeah, and that Rainy game in 2019. I forgot about that game, man. Yeah, that one sucked. But all right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Mike, let the folks know where to find you if they don't know already.
If you guys don't know already, subscribe to the Patreon page. It's all good. Patreon.com/NB9ERS. And if you guys don't follow me already on YouTube, head to youtube.com/NothingButNiners. Good content, extra and bonus shows over there all the time. We appreciate you guys, and thanks for the support throughout the regular season. We appreciate you guys.
All right. With that said, Matt, please carry us out. Final show of regular season.
Yeah. It was nice to see the 49ers get the number one seed in the regular season. Nice to see people meet or exceed expectations. And now it's down to business. It's the playoffs. And we have one more week of stress-free NFL Sunday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And we get to see who the 49ers get to play. And that's going to be an exciting thing. And we won't know until the very end, because if Tampa Bay wins, they're going to Santa Clara to face the 49ers. It's going to be just a nice weekend of watching the football, and then we get to gear up to watch the 49ers make their run to the Super Bowl. So for Mike, for Zach, for myself, thank you guys for joining us here tonight. We love having you here as always. And until next time, go Niners.